The candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2019 presidential poll, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has broken his silence on the verdicts of the election tribunal, which dismissed all his petitions against the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari. The former vice president appreciates his supporters for standing by him since his election and throughout the legal battle at the tribunal. He, however, hinted on why he is choosing to appeal the judgment that affirmed President Buhari's victory, saying that he is pursuing the judicial route to ensure that votes of Nigerians count and are counted. He says, "We must return to being Africa's bastion of democracy, where the rights to freedom of speech and freedom after the speech are guaranteed. We must stand together to pursue this just cause all the way so that our judiciary are not afraid to do their jobs and have to be wary of blackmail, intimidation and victimization." He's also asking Nigerians to continue the support for his recourse to constitutional order via the courts. Meanwhile, the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal in Abia State has upheld the victory of Governor Ikpeazu of Abia State in the March 2019 election. That, however, is not the only state where victory was recorded by the governors. This report looks at the judgments and declarations in Taraba, Kwara and Delta states as well.
Joyful chants by supporters of Taraba State Governor Darius Ishaku. Their emotion is connected to the governor's victory at the court, where the tribunal upheld his election. A confident governor, Ishaku promises better times for the state.
I want to open new grounds into mining, tourism, and others, so that by the time we leave, we will have consolidated the gains of the state. My target is to make sure that Taraba is self-dependent, so that you don't come up in hands begging. We should be able to produce enough.
In Kwara State, supporters of Governor Abdulrazak are celebrating as well because the tribunal has quashed a forgery case filed by the People's Democratic Party's candidate. The Governor's Council reacts to the judgment.
So why should he present a forged certificate in the first place? We were not in any way worried because we knew that any case that was based on falsehood will fail like this.
Abia is also in a merry state as the governor, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, also has his re-election upheld by the tribunal. The governor expresses desire to extend a hand of fellowship to the opposition in the interest of the state.
I have about 5 candidates that have come to participate in our policy making in trying to fashion out a new direction for Abia the next 4 years.
The same call for peaceful coexistence is urged by the governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, who has also been declared winner by the tribunal.
I stretching my hands once again to the opposition that it is time for us to work together for the good of our people.
With the successful outcomes for the governors, it should be straight to work and deliver on all promises made.
And in court, a former director of legal services in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Grace Taiga, has been remanded in prison following her arraignment before High Court of a Federal Capital Territory. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, had arraigned Mrs. Taiga over her alleged involvement in the signing of the controversial gas supply contract between the ministry and an Irish firm, Process and Industrial Development, P&ID. Her arraignment is coming barely 24 hours after the conviction of the P&ID and its Nigerian subsidiary by the Abuja Division of the Federal High Court. Our correspondent Amaka Okafor reports.
Mrs. Grace Taiga, a former director of legal services at the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, is the latest in the line of persons dragged to court as a fallout of the $9.6 billion judgment awarded against Nigeria in favor of Process and Industries Development Limited over a failed gas plant deal. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arraigned her on an 8-count charge bordering on criminal breach of trust and gratification, amongst others, to which she entered a not guilty plea. The EFCC in the charge specifically accused Mrs. Tega of signing the said agreement without obtaining approval of the Federal Executive Council or a certificate of no objection from the Bureau of Public Procurement as required by law. She also pleaded not guilty to receiving the sum of $20,000 as a bribe to facilitate the failed agreement. Attempts by her lawyer, Mr. Ola Olanikpekun, to argue an oral application for her bail was turned down by the court. The trial judge, Justice Olukayode Adeniyi, ordered that she be remanded in Suleja prison pending the hearing and determination of her bail application.
We would be filing charges against officials of the government of Nigeria that are involved in this matter. A significant number of the people involved that created this problem, most of them are deceased, but I can assure you that those of them that are alive, we will continue to file charges against them. I can also assure that between today and Monday, we'll also be filing charges against associated foreign and local companies.
Today was arraignment, and then as it is with the court process, because the charge was served on her only in the evening yesterday, and an amended charge in court this morning. So the proper application for bail, the prosecutor having admitted, having indicated that they are going to oppose bail, the proper thing is for them to show cause why she should not be granted bail.
The matter has been adjourned to the 25th of September 2019. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
The police in Rivers State has paraded the suspected serial killer of women in Port Harcourt, the state capital. The Rivers State Commissioner of Police, Mustafa Dendora, who briefed journalists at the command headquarters, named the suspect as 39-year-old Gracious David West from Buguma in the Sarituru local government area of the state. The suspect, according to him, was arrested by the police in a commercial bus en route to Akwa Ibom State and has confessed to killing 5 women in Port Harcourt.
The arrest of the suspected hotel serial killer in River State, cracked, signed, sealed and delivered to the press by the River State Police Command.
I'm delighted to be here.
A media briefing
with you.
A commissioner of police, and the suspect, Gracious David West, whose confession is described as voluntary.
They brought him. Immediately he entered my office. I asked him, David West. He answered, sir. I said, you're welcome to my office. So immediately he confessed to me that, please, sir, I'm ready to tell you the truth. I don't want any problem. I said, okay. I asked the SARS team to remove the handcuff so that he would be relaxed. He would be free to talk.
His modus operandi and motive for the heartless murders is also disclosed.
And we asked him, what is the motive? What is the motive of this killing? Why single women? He said he doesn't know. Even himself, he doesn't know that the team will just come to him like that, and he will just feel like he wants to kill, and he will make arrangement. He will pick a lady and go to hotel, book a room, and enter the room, kill and leave, and left the place.
A word of caution for hoteliers in River State on the importance of installing CCTV cameras.
All these short-time hotels must install this CCTV camera. They don't take any documentation of this guest. They don't do it. They have no CCTV camera. They don't take the documentation. The CCTV camera that was showing him during that viral, the same dress, the same lady was following him from the back. He went to the reception, booked hotel. He was waiting for the girl to come. And the CCTV camera captured him when he was climbing the steps on the corridor. He first of all entered, later the girl followed him. We showed him that video clip, and he confirmed that, yes, that is the same girl and he is the same person.
For the women of River State who agitated for an end to the killings, it's a fitting conclusion to a disturbing saga.
Actually, I'm really impressed by the police, because as of last week, Friday, we were here to submit a petition, and they assured us that exactly 1 week they will bring him to book, and I'm very happy that they did that.
What stops the hotel from confirming when the guest is leaving, if the visitor left or not? They should go to the room and check the rooms before any visitor, any guest should leave.
Doing the math, the suspect confessed to killing 7 women, but so far 10 women have lost their lives. As the police continue their investigations, the expectation is that the mystery behind the death of the other women will also be unraveled.
The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, is asking the federal government to consider the sale of its redundant public assets as part of efforts to increase its revenue base. Speaking at a news conference after a Monetary Policy Committee meeting in Abuja, the Central Bank Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, applauded the federal government's plan to increase the value-added tax from 5% to 7.5%.
Officials of the central bank and members of the Monetary Policy Committee at a meeting to deliberate on issues that affect the nation's economy and how to make sectors such as the manufacturing, power and the agri sector contribute significantly to national development.
It noted the build-up.
The central bank chief lists some initiatives being taken by the bank to create jobs, provide infrastructure and finance the real sector. He now wants the government to go a step further to shore up its revenue base.
The MPC also noted the government's current drive to increase value-added tax, adding that this will improve fiscal revenue to support expenditure and reduce the budget deficit and government borrowing when implemented. The MPC called on the government to, as a matter of urgency, adopt what it termed a big bang approach towards building fiscal buffers by purposefully freeing up redundant public assets through an efficient and effective privatization process.
Charges on deposits and withdrawals. There have been pushbacks from the public.
He then responds to questions bordering on some of its recent policies.
You endorsed.
In clear terms, Mr. Emefiele gives reasons behind its recent decision to apply charges to certain categories of cash deposits and withdrawals.
Today, permit me to say that small and medium enterprises and other businesses have various options and channels available to them for collecting legitimate payments for goods and services, like bank transfers, using the POS, using the mobile POSs or mobile cash, mobile money, the USSD codes, and the QR codes. Indeed, it is in the public interest to promote an efficient payment system via the cashless policy, which helps to reduce the punitive cost of cash processing, often passed on to bank customers via deposit money banks.
For now, the nation's economy is said to be showing signs of resilience. The Apex Bank is optimistic that with strong economic policies backed with implementation, the economy can only get better.